Coming up on tonight's broadcast, celebrating Earth Day, George Zimmerman is released.
Keeping Olympic athletes clean and a look at your local sports. All that and more right here on the Beaver News.
Welcome back to the Monday night edition of the Beaver News. We're glad to have you with us. I'm Courtney Cossette.
And I'm Brittany Mangold.
I don't have a teleprompter. Oregon State will be hosting a campus-wide event on April 27th called Bring Your Kids to Campus Day. This wide campus event will host a bunch of activities for all the kids involved who are going to be joining their parents or friends on campus. Why are they not moving it?
No. I think that, having your kids, bring your kids to Campus Day would be a great thing just to make a welcoming and warm environment.
I agree. That would be very fun. What kid wouldn't want to do that? I mean, you get to go play Frisbee, go play rugby, see what it's like around campus.
Yeah. And so Oregon State University is celebrating Earth Week by hosting multiple events and activities here on campus. As a leader in sustainability, Oregon State University is hosting these free events. Hold on one second. We're having some technical difficulties right now. Is hosting these free events to raise environmental awareness. Oregon State University is celebrating Earth Week by hosting multiple events and activities here on campus. As a leader in sustainability, Oregon State is hosting these free events to raise environmental awareness and engage students and Corvallis citizens. A large event tomorrow is the annual Earth Week Community Fair held at the MU Quad from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. 40 organizations comprise the annual Earth Week Community Fair to provide information regarding the environmental issues in our community. Other events on campus are produced and hosted by multiple student organizations, which include our diversity of interests to appeal to students. Tomorrow, the Student Sustainability Initiative is hosting one out of the 4 events on campus, a workshop on the basics of gardening from 4 to 5 p.m. To find out about the numerous other Earth Week events going on this week, go to calendar.oregonstate.edu and search the keyword Earth Week.
A class made up of 12 students were given the opportunity to catalog 48 films from the 1980s that will be put in the American Film Institute's online archive. Their work is part of a larger effort on behalf of the AFI to have accurate online records available for every American feature-length film produced from 1893 through 2011. One student of John Lewis's honors film class, Emily Barton, a University Honors College senior and economics major, says she is learning a great deal about the way gender politics colored the film industry of the early 1980s. Barton, who was assigned 4 movies, said researching the backstories of each film for the AFI was fascinating. For instance, she said many of the historical accounts of the movies come directly from people who were deeply entrenched in the movie industry and defended the politics of the system.
That sounds like a great class. Where can I sign up? But for students that are more interested in a career in the health or medical field, Oregon State University is sponsoring the 11th Annual Health Professions Career Fair tomorrow. Close to 50 schools from across the country participate in the event and provide students a chance to explore health profession school options, building networks for the future, and get tips from school representatives on undergraduate preparation. The career fair begins at 10 a.m. and goes to 3 p.m. at the LaSalle Stewart Center.
Reporter Hayden Wilcox was lucky enough to go into Snell and check out what they are doing in the Snell basement yesterday. Let's go see what he got. Hayden.
Out of using his hands. It all started when Rusty was in middle school, and a friendly competition between brothers shaped a dedication to pottery.
Like, he was in high school, I was in middle school or whatever, and he, was bringing back these amazing pieces, and it's like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to be better than that.
This competition formed a career for Rusty and continually inspires him to be better than his brother.
Well, so we both had the same high school teacher, and so he got to see my brother. We're several years apart. Let's see. He was already out of high school before I got in, and so he got to see my brother grow up to be the potter he is today, and then he got to see me in two separate occasions. And so, I don't know, every now and then I'll be like, hey, have I beat him yet? Have I beat him yet? To my teacher. And he's like, oh, you're not there yet. You're not there yet. But, I don't think he ever gave me that joy of success. But, he wanted me to continue with that strive to be better.
It is this pressure that crafts Rusty's determination, but Rusty has to keep this pressure in check, just as he does when making a pot.
I'm feeling, what is the clay doing? If it's starting to push out, well, I got to push back in, or vice versa, whether I want the clay to go in or out. So it's all a feel with my hands. It's like kind of seeing with my hands, essentially.
What this looks like, if he has anything he's done.
Barrel Fritz and
Rusty's work will go through an extensive process from start to finish, but if the work isn't up to his standards, then it's easy for him to simply start all over again. This has been Hayden Wilcox reporting for the Beaver News.
What a great story. Thanks, Hayden. A former Oregon State University student is living out his dream and will be performing a significant role on Broadway in what Times Magazine is calling the best musical of the year, titled Porgy and Bess. Oregon State alum Roosevelt Andre Credit is performing the role of Jim the Fisherman, where his booming bass baritone voice fills the auditorium and allows him to share the stage with stars Audra McDonald, Norm Lewis, and David Allen Greer. The 44-year-old Credit has had an interesting journey that began when he majored in music education at OSU. He gravitated toward opera, but was visible throughout campus, singing the national anthem at basketball games and commencement ceremonies, and performing in countless plays, concerts, school, and community functions.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to milk a cow? Located 1.5 miles west of campus is the OSU Dairy Farm, one of Oregon State University's field of expertise for the past 100 years. Amanda Untel of the Daily Barometer reports, the dairy farm teaches students the traditional hands-on techniques as well as how to operate the new milking machines and the technology to test the milk. Testing of the milk includes finding the milk fat percentage, milk protein, conductivity of the milk, somatic cell count, and presence of blood in the milk. The farm allows students and faculty to conduct research and teach various disciplines in the animal science department and contributes to the successful reputation of Oregon State's agricultural department.
We have come upon the centennial anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic, the unsinkable ship. And to Gina Rives de Armand, a doctoral student at Oregon State, one of the ways people can appreciate the Titanic's history is through the clothes people wore on the ship. She says, quote, "The clothing personalizes the history." And she adds, "Because people today can relate to it, it is a common thread between people of today and 100 years ago, even though styles have changed."
Ecosystems in the northern hemisphere are becoming disrupted due to the loss of predators like wolves, moose, and bears. Oregon State University scientists have found that the loss of predators in forest ecosystems has allowed small game animals to greatly increase and consume young trees and plants, reducing biodiversity. According to Robert Beshta, professor at OSU and co-author of the study, the decrease of the predator impacts food source for another, which is why the loss of multiple predators occurs simultaneously. This research indicates the harmful effects of hunting large predators, and Beshta asserts, quote, "In systems where large predators remain, they appear to have a major role in sustaining the diversity and productivity of native plant communities, thus maintaining a healthy ecosystem."
A new report authored by researchers at Oregon State and other universities in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and France has determined that the new global move to produce more energy from forest biomass is unsustainable and will increase greenhouse gas emissions. In Global Change Biology Bioenergy, a professional journal in which the report was published, the scientists claimed that producing energy from forest biomass would deplete in soil nutrients, increase risk of erosion, and raise costs of bioenergy.
A study conducted at Oregon State University suggests that women who work at least 30 minutes a day are less likely to develop metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is a name for a group of risk factors, including high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and midsection body fat, which occur together and increase the risk for coronary disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. The study was conducted by Bradley Cadnall, who is a professor of social psychology of physical activity at OSU, and Paul Loprinzi, who is now an assistant professor at Bellarmine University. According to Loprinzi, those who exercise 30 minutes a day are less likely to be depressed and, as a result, are less likely to develop abdominal fat and become insulin resistant. Research found that the average adult women have 18 minutes of rigorous daily exercise, while men on average have 30 minutes.
It sure is great to be active outside, especially during this great weather we've been having.
Oh, yes.
We are now about to go into our first break for the evening, but stay tuned because when we come back, we'll have your national news.
Welcome back to the Beaver News right here on KBVR. As Amanda Untel of the Daily Barometer reports, an OSU professor in finance has developed a fragility index to help predict when stock markets crash. The fragility index identifies periods when stock markets are in high risk of experiencing losses and measures how the stock market acts between countries to identify factors present with each crash. Professor Dave Berger studied 80 countries and found that each country was sensitive to the centerline factor, which leads to a commonality of how the countries were integrated. When a country's fragility is high, the global market suffers due to the integration effect. Berger and his partners are working on a real application for policymakers to prevent crashes a month before they occur, a significant factor that could significantly improve the current global market. And in further financial news, as the stock market fell today, concerns rise for the well-being of the European market. CNN reports, with the presidential election in France, the resignation of the Dutch Prime Minister, and the slowdown of the Chinese economy, these all contribute to the overall instability of the market. Another factor of the Dow's decline is the aftermath from the New York Times article, which alleged that executives in the Mexico division of Walmart have attempted to conceal a large bribery scheme. Now shares of the publicly traded Mexico division dropped 12%. On the domestic front, last Friday ended on a high, and today begins with one of the biggest weeks for corporate earnings.
George Zimmerman, the neighborhood watch volunteer who was charged with the murder of Trayvon Martin, was released on bail around midnight on Sunday from the Florida jail. CNN reports Zimmerman is accused of shooting 17-year-old Martin after calling authorities to report a suspicious person walking around his Sanford, Florida neighborhood. 28-year-old Zimmerman claims he shot the victim in self-defense. Upon his release, Zimmerman was outfitted with a GPS monitor and headed for an undisclosed location.
You know, that story has really captivated the nation, and we will continue to bring you coverage as the story develops. In just as shocking legal news, it was only a few years ago that John Edwards was a prospect for president of the United States, but now his possibilities in the political world appeared quite different. As reported by CNN, Edwards' trial began today in Greensboro, North Carolina. He is charged with 6 felony and misdemeanor counts related to the many dealings of his failed presidential campaign. The government also alleges that Edwards willfully received nearly $100 million in illegal campaign contributions to hide his pregnant mistress from the public so he can continue his presidential bid. In his defense, Edwards claims his actions were wrong, but not illegal. If convicted, Edwards could face up to 30 years in prison.
Well, while we have been enjoying the warm heat wave that is sweeping over Corvallis, the Northeast is enduring a blustery snowstorm that in some parts already had up to 16 inches of snow Monday morning. Snowstorms of this magnitude are very rare for this late in April. Forecasters expect record snowfall for this time of year in some areas. Snowfall rates in central Pennsylvania are expected to reach 1 inch per hour at times during Monday afternoon, said CNN meteorologist Sean Morris, with potential bullseye areas being Du Bois and Erie, Pennsylvania. This fanatical snowstorm is following a mild winter that saw little snow and the warmest March on record.
The search for remains of Eden Patz, a 6-year-old boy who disappeared more than 30 years ago, comes to a disappointing halt today. CNN reports the New York Police Department searched the basement of a building located only 100 yards from Eden's home and discovered a bloodstain. However, the test came back negative. The basement was the workplace of Othniel Miller, a carpenter who police questioned after finding out Miller laid new cement slabs down only days after Eden's disappearance. However, the cement slabs are never dug up until now, according to a law enforcement source. The investigation reopened after a police dog reacted in a way that suggested the possibility of human remains in the concrete of the basement. Miller, now 75, has cooperated with police for at least 30 years and maintains that he has nothing to do with Eden's disappearance. America became aware of Eden Patz when a campaign was launched putting his picture on a milk carton with hopes that someone could come forth with information regarding the boy's disappearance.
Over a decade ago, more than 265 chimpanzees spent their days at a New Mexico medical research facility being poked, prodded, and confined to small cages until Save the Chimps Foundation intervened. Save the Chimps spent nearly a decade rehabilitating chimps and transported them to a 150-acre sanctuary in Florida. With the help of a $3.7 million grant, the Save the Chimps organization purchased the facility in 2002 and transformed it into the world's largest sanctuary for chimpanzees. It would serve as temporary housing for the chimps until the organization could create a more permanent outdoor sanctuary in Florida. The U.S. is one of only 2 countries that legally allow chimps to be used in invasive biomedical research. But now, for the first time, these chimpanzees will get to live outdoors.
We are heading into our final break of the evening, but don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll have a look at your national and international news, as well as a look at sports with Joe Hedberg.
News live on KBVR. London 2012 organizers enlisted the help of state-of-the-art laboratory for drug testing. For the first time in Olympics history, a private sponsor, pharmaceutical giant GlaxoSmithKline, or GSK, will be aiding the effort, providing the facilities for the scientists to carry out their work, and with the help of GSK, we will see more than 6,000 blood and urine tests during the Games. Therefore, competitors who want to run the risk of taking performance-enhancing substances before or during this year's Summer Olympics will face the most sophisticated anti-doping operation in the history of the Games, according to London 2012 organizers. The message coming from London 2012 organizers this year is, quote, yes, we can and we will.
A political shock occurred earlier today when the Dutch Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, resigned after the far-right party withdrew its support for his government, reports CNN. Rutt's government had depended on support from Geert Wilders' Party for Freedom, which came in third during the parliamentary elections 2 years ago. Rutt's support from the Party for Freedom did not affect his reputation, since the Wilders Party for Freedom created unwanted publicity when Wilders himself went in and out of courts for being accused of hatred against Muslims with his controversial film Fitna. Rutt and his ministers will remain in their positions until a new election occurs sometime this summer.
Britain's Prince Henry will be traveling to Washington, D.C. in May and be presented with the Humanitarian Award by the Atlantic Council. This award for distinguished humanitarian leadership recognizes his work with veterans and serving members of the armed forces. Prince Harry is also expected to meet British and American athletes who have taken part in the Warrior Games, a Paralympic sports tournament for armed services personnel in Colorado. Other high-profile guests whose work will be recognized by the Council on May 7th are UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, violinist Anne-Sophie Mutter, and Unilever CEO Paul Pullman.
Though global climate change is typically thought of as a negative thing, in Greenland, the melting ice caps could be helping their economy. CNN reports that the tourism industry has seen a substantial increase in cruise ship visitors. With significantly less solid ice than in the past, Greenland has become a grave topic of concern, and 2 cities in particular have been marketed in the book 100 Places to Go Before They Disappear: the town of Lewistad to the west and Zackenberg to the northeast.
This year alone, some 877 dolphins have washed up on the shores of Peru, and investigators are determined to figure out why. It is believed that they could have died of the morbillivirus or Brucella bacteria, but given that most were found in advanced stages of decay, it is difficult to pinpoint an exact cause of death. CNN reports that officials have been able to conclude that the dolphins' deaths were not due to lack of food, interaction with fisheries, poisoning with pesticides, biotoxin poisoning, or contamination by heavy metals. Results from current tests are expected within the week.
I certainly hope that they're able to find out what is causing the dolphins to die and cure it fast. For some positive news, let's go to Joe for a look at sports.
Hello, Corvallis, and welcome to your Monday edition of the Sports Report. It was a good weekend for Oregon State sports when our baseball team won the home series with the UCLA Bruins. On Friday, the Bruins shut down the Beavers with a 4-0 score. On Saturday, the Beavers returned the shutout, beating UCLA 3-0. Yesterday's game was an exciting victory with a 7-6 win. OSUathletics.com is reporting that our next game is a non-conference game against Oregon, Tuesday night at PK Park in Eugene. The first pitch is slated for 6 p.m. Junior Melanie Jones finished tied for 4th on the floor exercise at the NCAA Championship Individual Event Finals Sunday afternoon. It is the best finish on the floor for an Oregon State gymnast since 1993. Jones performed a near-flawless floor routine, including changing her first tumbling pass to a 2.5 punch front pull to earn a score of 9.925. It was Jones's first appearance in an individual event finals, and the other Beavers totaled 4 All-American accolades. In 2012, Jones' first team floor exercise, Mack's second team balance beam floor exercise, and Stambaugh's second team floor exercise. Congratulations, ladies. And finally in sports, a follow-up from Tuesday. The Los Angeles Kings beat the Vancouver Canucks in their 2-1 in overtime to clutch the series 4 games to 1. And that's your sports.
Well, that's all the news we have for you tonight, but tune in tomorrow night for more KBVR Beaver news, for the news that matters in your life.
Have a great night, everyone.